Hi everyone, welcome to episode number 14 of the Bill podcast. And today we'll be looking into setting up local web servers. Now, often when we are developing or testing our applications, we need to set up web servers in our machine so that we can test and develop and perfect them before releasing it to the World Wide Web. Let's look at some of the common web servers that are already available and what are they. So if you look at the Wikipedia page, a web server is basically a hardware or a software that helps us to deliver the web content. And down the page, we will also see some of the names of the most common web servers. In today's episode, we'll be concentrating on the default built-in Apache server in Mac OS system. And another way is to use the Apache server with the MEMP, another external application. And thirdly, we will go through Nginx. As you can see, there's another web server. And Light TTPD is also a very free open source web server. So let's firstly go and look at the pages of Apache and Nginx. So this is the Apache page, the project page, and here we can find documentations and a lot of example configuration files that we can learn from. The second common web server is Nginx, and over here also there are very clear download instructions as well as some documentations that we can learn from. So we'll get started with the built-in Mac Apache server that is found in our machine. So to do that, let's firstly go on to our terminal. And if you want to know a little bit more information about the Apache, which is already installed in our Mac OS, we can find out with the version. As you can see, the Apache version is 2.2.2.1. And it's also very good to know which program path it is firing up this application from. So I like to do which Apache CTL, and it will tell us it is in usr/sbin/Apache CTL. Right, great. So let's say we are developing a website and it is your personal website, something like this. It is out in the internet and all your friends can see it as well. And you definitely have a local file as well. So I have already opened up the local file folder here like this, and let me open up this. Now, often we need to use a web server so that the file paths are correct, but more importantly, if we have server-side programming language, we definitely need a web server. What I did just now was to just double-click the index.html, and it shows in my browser this is not via any web server. And a very quick way for my page will be that this little animation, when I hover over here, if I go to my website, this little animation is working, but if I just fire up the static file, it will not work. So let's figure out why. So if I open up the console, it will say that there's a script error and it cannot find main.js. So obviously the file path is wrong and it requires a proper domain name. So let's see how we can develop and configure Apache in our Mac. So do that. Firstly, what we will do is we will open up this host file in our machine, and the host file is commonly found in /private/etc/hosts, and I'm going to open this file. So this file will typically look like this. It will have the IP address here and then the name. So if you go to localhost, you will find all the files there. So I've created some before for some of my WordPress files or some of my own project files. So let's go ahead and create a a file, a domain name that we can work for this side. So wouldn't it be nice if we have a domain name dev.sayan.ee or your own page? So obviously when we try to access it right now, nothing is happening and it will give you an error because this page does not exist. What if we can make it exist locally? So let's do right that. And to do that, I'm just going to copy this line and paste it. And over here, I'm going to add dev dot the domain name that we want to do. And after we press save, they will ask me for the username and the password once again. All right, so once we set up the host, the second thing we need to do is access the virtual host configuration file. And to do that, we need to go to the path private and then etc once again, and there we have Apache to under extra folder, and we go to httpd and then vhosts.conf. So let's look at this file. Right, so this file I have of course edited, but typically it will look like this. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy and paste this and try to make some changes for my development side. So obviously the server name, I will change it to the name that I want. So in this case it would be dev.my domain name. And you have to set the document root from where you fired up this static file originally. So this file is found in site/play/myname folder. So I'm gonna put that inside here. So site/play/myname. And next one, they want to know the directory, so which is the same as the document root. So I'm going to put that down here. And here are some of the configurations like order and allow, and that should be good. So I'm going to press save. And lastly, it's just as a precautionary, we'll just make sure that this file httpd/vhostconfig is actually accessible by the Apache. To do that, we will go inside the private folder once again, /etc Apache, and this time we'll go into httpd.conf. Right, so this is basically the overall configuration file. So how do we find this out? We will actually look for this file name here. So I'm just going to search for this. Control F, and you will find it virtual hosts, and it will say include this. So usually when you first started, this will be commented out, so make sure that this is it will be commented, so make sure that this is commented out so that Apache can actually look into the virtual hosts configuration file to know what are these happening. All right, so let's go on to my browser, and obviously nothing will happen yet because we have to start the server. So in our terminal, we can copy and paste this code, which is actually sudo apache ctl and then start. So it will ask you for the password, and once you do that, you go back to your browser and you refresh. Yes, you should see the same static file that we were previously viewing. Now we will see it with viewing through the Apache, Max Apache default built-in. And as you can see, when I go over the words, it can be have that animation, and when we go to the console, there is no path error. So a little bit about the Max built-in Apache server. So if we want to stop it, we can just do stop, or if we want to restart it, we can just do restart. These are some of the common commands to stop and restart, but I wanted to also show you how to access it through the graphical user interface. So if we go to the system preference and under sharing, we will see the web sharing folder is right now, the web sharing option is right now on, and we can also view all the files and folders through this common web address. Right, and the other common thing is if we go to our iTerminal and let's say we try to stop it. Alright, and if we go back here and we come back to the sharing, we will see that web sharing is off. And of course, if we start it once again, if we go back here and we come back to sharing, we will see that it is on right again. I just prefer to use the terminal way because it's much faster rather than going through the system preference and so on. So I'm just going to stop it. So if you are using Apache server, and you can definitely use the Max inbuilt server in a very easy way. All you need to do is configure these three files: the host file, the virtual host file, and just make sure that in the Apache configuration the virtual host file is included. Right, so that is method number 1. Now often we will go on to method 2 now. So over here what we'll try to do is we will use this application called MAMP. MAMP basically means Mac, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. So apart from using the web server, let's say you are using a database which requires MySQL database as well as a server-side language such as PHP, MAMP is a very easy application to configure all of this and get started very easily. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use MAMP. So over here MAMP has 2 versions. One is the free version and the other one is the pro version with a lot more configurations. So I have already downloaded the MAMP the free version, and we're going to play with it. Now before we do that, since I'm gonna give a demo on MAMP which includes MySQL and PHP, I'm going to try to install WordPress locally, which also uses a database as well as PHP as a server-side language. All right, so let's do that. So I'm going to take out MAMP first and show you the easy interface. So MAMP will give you a very simple interface. You can start the servers. So they will prompt you for the username and the password. And when you start the servers, they will take you out to the default page. And of course, you can stop the servers as well. And if you look at the preferences, pretty easy. You can start, stop, you can open page add. So this is something I find very useful. It will usually go to the sites folder on our documents. And the ports, I just set it to the default Apache and MySQL ports, and PHP I just set it to the latest one, and of course Apache. So those are the simple configurations here. And next what I'll do is I will try to have let's say for buildpodcast.com, which is done with the WordPress site, let's try to have dev.buildpodcast.com. So right now when I try to access it, obviously there is no such website, and this is what we are going to do. We're going to try to install WordPress and play with WordPress locally. So let me just download WordPress then. And while we are downloading WordPress, let's do some configurations for the MAMP side of things. So for MAMP, we also have to do a few configurations just like the first options. So in order to do that, we will firstly open up our hosts file, which is the same as the first option. It is residing in this file, hosts. And over here what we will do is I'm going to add in one more line, and this will be dev.build-podcast.com. so build-podcast.com. And next what I'm going to do is, okay, let me put in the username and the password. And next what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to edit the MAMP virtual host configuration file and the MAMP Apache's configuration file. So notice that by default our Max Apache configuration files reside in a different folder, And typically the MAMP files will be very similar file, but it will reside in a different folder. So let's try to access that. So it will typically reside in applications slash MAMP slash conf slash Apache slash extra slash http dvhosts.com. So as you can see, we are referring to the same file, but I used to be really confused between these two files. So please note that this is what we are doing through the MAMP, and the earlier step 1 is what we did through the default Mac's way of doing. So let me just open up the file. So when you open up the file, it will be something very similar. So after you do the host file, you make sure that this is there. We're going to try to do this. So I'm just going to copy this folder once again. And over here, let me then do it under a folder, maybe WP build. Right, so I'm going to have a folder called WP build, and that's where I'm going to reside it. So just make sure you also have a dev.build-podcast.com. So, right, so inside WP build folder, that's where we are going to have it. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish downloading WordPress, which is already here. Show in Finder. Let me unzip it. Alright, so inside sites now, I will have a new folder called WP build. Let me go inside here. And this is where I will drag in all my WordPress folders. So let me just go into the desktop where I downloaded it. So I'm just going to drag and drop everything inside here. Right, and now I will open up this inside my Sublime Text. So this is a brand new WordPress download, and inside config file there are some configurations that we'll have to do. So firstly, what I'll do is I'll go and get the MAMP started. Right, so this is the start page, and if we visit PHP My Admin, this is where we can initiate our WordPress database. So what I'm going to do is come here and create maybe WordPress dash build and create. Right, so it's a slightly different spelling. So I'm going to come here and put it right over here. WordPress database name here. So I'm inside the wp-config-sample file. And next I will put in the username, which is usually root, and next I have the password. The password can also be left as root, and the host can be left as localhost. So I'm going to save this file, and I will just rename it. So let me rename it as a wp-config. So that's all you need. So I have already started the servers, and now what I'll do is I will try to refresh this page, and we should see something with the WordPress. Right, so there you go. You have the WordPress installation that will kick you off, and I will not go through the details, but basically we have a WordPress blog right here working locally along with MAMP, a very useful application. So you can access that through mamp.info. So that was number 2 way on how you can fire up local applications. MAMP is a very useful one if you're using with MySQL and PHP. And lastly, so let me go ahead and quit the MAMP, and I'm going to stop the Apache server that is running through MAMP. Next, what I'll do is now I will go to step number 3, which is Nginx, another server. So our first 2 ways was using Apache, and now we will use another common web server called Nginx. And I have already downloaded. There are various download instructions depending on your operating system, and maybe even a package manager. So the way we can first check whether it's installed or not, I'm gonna just fire up nginx-v to know the version. All right, so that it is. And of course it is also good to know where is the file path program for this. It is in this file path, which is /op/local/op bin. Okay, so now we will do something very similar. So I will try to now access dev my website through Nginx, not Apache this time, but of course it's not working. So in order to do that, we will have to very similarly fire up our configuration files, but this time for Nginx. So the very first thing I will do is still access the host file, which is common for whatever web servers you're using. And right, we already have that, and make sure you have this web address and IP address name. So I already have that, so let me exit. Next, what we have to do is access the Nginx configuration file, and depending on how you installed it, you have to find the path name, but typically it will be inside your Nginx, and then the file name will be nginx-conf, So let's try to access that. It will look typically like this with a very JSON format style. So over here under HTTP, I'm just gonna copy this server block here. This is where I will define my document root, very similar to what we did. So obviously my server name this time will be dev.mywebsite-name, and inside it I remembered it was under play.myname and index. All right, so everything looks pretty okay. I'm gonna save it. They're gonna ask for my password. Right, and after I come back, when I refresh, of course nothing is going to happen, because once again we have to start the Nginx server. So how do we start the Nginx server? We have to do sudo nginx, and they will ask me for the password. And after the server has started, let me go to the website and refresh it. And alright, so now I'm serving this web page through Nginx. So now very finally, how do we stop it? We stop it with sudo nginx -s then stop. So when we stop the server and we try to refresh it, of course we will not be able to view it anymore. Right, so that was all about how do we configure and set up some simple web servers. I wanted to go through the build podcast of this week, and that is Cooper Press newsletters, Cooper Press, and we can find that in cooperpress.com. If you are a software developer, I have been subscribing to these newsletters, and it has been thoroughly very helpful, like JavaScript, HTML5, Ruby. If you're into Dart, then Dart as well. Status Code is very cool. It's a general newsletter on software developers. So I highly recommend you go and subscribe through it. So if you say you want to subscribe to HTML5, you just click it, and they will ask you for your email. It is very nicely put together by Peter Cooper of peterc.org, and he also has a lot of resources in his website, and do follow him in Twitter as well if you want to know more about Peter Cooper. Very helpful newsletters. So I highly recommend you subscribe to Cooper Press newsletters. Right, so that's it for this episode. For all other episodes, you can visit build-podcast.com, and you can subscribe it to various means like YouTube or Vimeo or GitHub and even iTunes. And that's it for this week, and I will see you next week. Goodbye.